Yes, sir.
Get on the second one. Well, how are you? It sticks on the outside. So hopefully. Yeah. Like the glue.
The chair back, let's do it. See, it's been that low enough. It has to be seen from one. Let's see. Yeah.
No. Move over.
I'm glad you got it.
Good morning.
Hey, we'll start.
Are you starting?
I don't know.
Very close.
You give me the direction.
Not
You can
mine.
introduce me. Want me to introduce you? No. Yeah, sure. I don't care. I don't know what they're doing.
He put it up on that speaker dock, so I'm guessing they're not. Maybe they're gonna do that next.
Announcement, yeah.
Yeah, don't talk about me. My ears. He's
The announcement.
I do. Pardon me, it's part of it.
Morning, everybody.
so proud.
You're so
Shelter. Morning, Edmonton.
Hello.
I got a couple of quick announcements, and then we're going to introduce Nova, and we're going to go. So, if I can have everybody's attention, please. Couple of quick announcements. They've extended us being able to get our Best Christian Workplace work finished to Thursday tomorrow night. And so if you have not got that done, I will not make you raise your hands to say who has not done that in this room. You know who you are. By tomorrow would be great. I know, that's why I didn't do it. Shots. Where's my buddy Boris? Boris, we're doing shots again tomorrow, right? Blue shots? Or was it just yesterday? Sorry? It was just yesterday? I thought it was 2 days. Just yesterday. Okay, anyway, you can get it done at the pharmacy on a date. You can look at those posters around. If you didn't get it done, if you're one of those people like myself who failed to participate, the pharmacy downstairs will do them. I think that's coming up next week. Next week's speaker is going to be Jeremiah Smith, who runs our employment program. And this week's speaker, and I got to get this right because Dean described her the following way. He said, our volunteer guru, Nova, is the speaker this week. So, Nova, you're up.
All right, I didn't want to stand awkwardly up there, so I'm seated here. I think more pleasant. And I borrowed this stool from you guys. Thanks a lot for the stool. So I'm going to pull quite a bit of text from Parker Palmer. I've been reading a lot of his work lately, and it's been kind of inspiring to me. So you're going to hear a couple stories from him, and yeah, we're going to move along that way. So I handed out a piece of paper to everyone in this room, and basically I just included, I'm going to be asking some open-ended questions. You don't have to answer them, but I made them into a tiny little slip for you if you want to slip it in a book or if you want to think about them longer. You may just want to throw it away. That's totally fine, but I thought I'd do my due diligence and hand it out to you. All right, so I'm going to start. So it was my second date with my husband, Nathan Winter. We went for lunch after church one day to Remedy downtown. We were chatting about this and that and totally interested in finding out anything and everything about who each other were. It went from small talk to more serious questions and answers. You know, questions about parents and about siblings and about family of origin. And that's when Nathan told me a story that I had no idea would one day impact my life in a very significant way. He was a little nervous to share it, wondering if maybe I would think he was kind of weird or strange, which he is, but, or maybe it was a little too much information for only the second date. It was actually the story of what's now my name and his last name. And this is a story we rarely tell to anyone, so I'm letting you guys in on a little secret. So I trust that you keep it close to your heart. So, for Nathan Shreve, growing up without a loving father significantly impacted his identity. What he thought about himself and how he connected who he was with the world. It was in his early 20s, during the summer of work in Las Vegas, Nevada, when Nathan felt like God had spoken to him the phrase, "Winter is to be mine and to listen." It was the following winter where Nathan experienced an intense season of grief and failure and his first deep dive into depression. Winter is, as you know, now my married name, and it means winter is to be mine and to listen. So chapter 1, winter. The little deaths of autumn are mild precursors to the rigor mortis of winter. The Southern humorist Roy Blunt has opinion that in the upper Midwest where I live, where we get winter, is not bad weather, but divine retribution. He believes that someone here once did something very, very bad, and we're still paying the price for his or her transgression. Winter here is a demanding season, and not everyone appreciates its discipline. It's a season when death's victory can feel and seem supreme. Few creatures stir, plants don't visibly grow, and nature feels like our enemy. And yet the rigors of winter, like the dismemberments of autumn, are accompanied by amazing gifts. One gift is beauty, different from that of autumn, but perhaps more beautiful still. I'm not sure that any sight or sound on earth is as exquisite as the hushed descent of a sky full of snow. Another gift is the reminder that times of dormancy and deep rest are essential to all living things. Despite all appearances, of course, nature is not dead in winter. It's gone underground to renew itself and prepare for spring. Winter is a time when we're admonished and even inclined to do the same for ourselves. But for me, winter has an even greater gift to give. It comes when the sky is clear, the sun is brilliant, the trees bare, and the first snow yet to come. It's the gift of utter clarity. Winter clears the landscape. In winter, one can walk into the woods that have been opaque and with summer growth only a few months earlier and see the trees clearly singing together, and you can see the ground that they're rooted in. Winter clears the landscape, however brutally, giving us the chance to see ourselves and each other more clearly, to see the very ground of our being. In the upper Midwest, newcomers often receive a classic piece of wintertime advice. The winters will drive you crazy until you learn to get out in them. Here, people spend good money on warm clothing so they can get outdoors and avoid the cabin fever that comes from huddling fearfully by the fire during the long frozen months. If you live here long, you learn that a daily walk into the winter world will fortify the spirit by taking you boldly to the very heart of the season you fear. Our inward winters take many forms: failure, betrayal, depression, death. But every one of them, in my experience, yields to the same advice. The winters will drive you crazy until you learn to get out of them. Until we enter boldly into the fears we most want to avoid, those fears will dominate our lives. But when we walk directly into them, protected from frostbite by the warm garb of friendship, inner discipline, or spiritual guidance, we can learn what they have to teach us. Then we discover once again that the cycle of the seasons is trustworthy and life-giving, and even in the most dismaying season of all. That's the first part of the story. I chose to focus on the season of winter because of my last name and the theme I'm kind of going with. And I also feel like I've been going through a challenging winter season for a while. Whether it be spring, autumn, or fall in your life, what kind of inward season are you in right now? Winter is an inward season that's experienced by all humanity. You, me, our children, our parents, the community members that participate in our programs and our drop-in centers. Some of us are going through inward winters right here and now, and most of our community members are going through incredibly challenging inward-facing winters each and every day. It's a connection that we have through all of humanity. So the first couple questions I have, just pack them away in your mind. What do you think it means to get out in them? How can you be brave this season, whatever season you're in, and face boldly the fears that you most want to avoid? Many of our community members are living in and through perpetual inward winters. What does it mean for us to offer the warm garb of friendship to the people that we serve? Chapter 2, to be mine. Last names are really important. They showcase who you belong to, where you are from, and in the past it might have indicated what you did for a job. In Newfoundland, where I just spent the last 2 years, someone might say to you something like, "Who knit you?" instead of "What's your name?" meaning, who do you belong to? Where are you from? Funnily enough, I have the last name that is a constant reminder of my belonging to Creator God through deeply treacherous inner winters. When Nathan chose the last name Winter, he felt like that was something that God had spoken to him. Winter is to be mine and to listen. To be mine. Who you belong to matters. We're not alone. For Nathan, changing his last name from Shreve to Winter was meaningful in lots of ways. For one thing, it was to no longer identify himself with his absent father. But it brought reassurance to Nathan's sense of belonging. In 1 John 3, it says, "What marvelous love the Father has extended to us. Just look at it. We're called children of God." And that's who we really are. That's exactly who we are, and that's only the beginning. Together, we can recognize that hope. We can rest in our knowledge of God's steadfastness through the changing of seasons. We can be brave enough to learn from those seasons, learn what they have to teach us. And we can be even more brave when we know that somewhere, somehow, we belong to someone. We belong to a family that's bigger than us. Paula talks about in one of her presentations about that one essence of poverty being broken relationships with others or broken relationships with Creator God. Knowing where and how we belong brings restoration to our weary bones. What does belonging mean to you? How can we create a sense of belonging to the community that we serve or for the community that we serve? Chapter 3, and to listen. In our volunteer training, we talk a lot about what it means to create spaces of safety and hospitality and warmth for our community members and our neighbors. We talk about no fixing, saving, advising, or correcting, and it's a little rule we have. Or this idea of learn to trust and learn from the silence. The idea that we can treat silence as a member of the group. I'm going to pull from a second story, The Gift of Presence and the Perils of Advice. And this is one that I've had to work through quite a bit in this last season. Parker talks a bit about, the perils of advice, why it doesn't make you happy to, hear people just sharing advice after advice. But I'm going to skip to just one section. Here's the deal. The human soul doesn't want to be advised or fixed or saved. It simply wants to be witnessed, to be seen, heard, and companioned exactly how it is. When we make that kind of deep bow to the soul of a suffering person, our respect reinforces the soul's healing resources, the only resources that can help the sufferer make it through. There's the rub. Many of the helper types, like us, are so much more concerned with being seen as good helpers than we are with the serving the soul deep needs of the person who needs help. Witnessing and companioning takes time and patience, which we often lack, especially when in the presence of suffering so painful that we can barely stand to be there. As if we're in danger of catching a contagious disease, we want to apply our fix, then cut and run, figuring we've done the best we can to save the other person. During my depression, there was one friend who truly helped. With my permission, Bill came to my house every day around 4 p.m. He sat me down in an easy chair and massaged my feet. He rarely said a word. But somehow, he found the one place in my body that I could sense connection with another person, relieving my awful sense of isolation while bearing silent witness to my condition. By offering me this quiet companionship for a couple of months, day in and day out, Bill helped save my life. Unafraid to accompany me in suffering, he made me less afraid of myself. He was present, simply and fully present, in the same way one needs to be at the bedside of a dying person. It's at such a bedside where we can finally learn that we have no fix or save or anything to offer those who suffer deeply. And yet we have something better, our gift of self in the form of personal presence and attention, the kind that invites the other's soul to show up. What does this mean for us and our relationship with Creator God? Instead of fixing, saving, advising, or helping, we're often asking, begging, or crying out. Or for me, it's a need to please God. In addition to everyone else, do everything well, serve Him above and beyond. Listening to others, listening to God is a practice. For me, it's often a conscious decision. I like how Parker says, and yet we have a gift of self in the form of personal presence and attention, the kind that invites the other's soul to show up. What if all God wanted from us was the gift of ourselves in the form of personal presence and attention, listening? In the community we serve, listening to others, the power of a story being honored is one of the most precious gifts we can give. What does it mean to listen to others, and especially those in our community, look like? What kinds of quiet companionship can you offer to the Creator, to others, and to yourself? I'm just going to close in some prayer, and then feel free to spend the rest of your day enjoying listening, or being kind to yourself, or thinking about where you belong, or even thinking about what season you're in and reflecting on it. Jesus, we love you so much. We're passionate about you. It looks different for all of us. But God, we just ask right now that you would help us reflect on the season that we're in. Help us to honor the season that we're in. Help us to be brave enough to belong to you, allow ourselves to belong to you, and allow others, or to offer belonging to others. God, I just pray that you would remind us that you're okay with us just being present, and that's enough. We don't have to speak, we can just listen. And you have lots to say to us. So God, we just pray that over this day. I pray your blessing over it. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Yeah, I think we can go. Yeah.
Hey, wait, no, you guys can't go.
I know.